not exactly have a line of people.
I know,
getting-
if folks come, they'll get here, they can always ask questions later on
Right.
as it goes along, so, and there might be folks watching online too, so we can go ahead and call the meeting to order, 6:02, and this being an informational meeting, I'll turn it over to Debbie in a second, she can run through her stuff, and then if anyone has any questions at the end, we can just throw them out for the, Debbie runs through them, so, go ahead, Deb.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome to the FY2020 Cambridge School Budget Information Meeting. The budget as proposed is about $4.6 million for non-special ed expenditures. That's $107,344 increase or 2.2 decrease or 2.27% decrease. Am I blocking anything, Jeremy? Okay.
Do you have extra copies of them?
Yes.
I guess I missed them.
Special education is going up, however, to the tune of $152,000 or 19.63%, for a total combined increase of about $44,000 or $45,000 or 0.81% increase, almost flat. The key budget drivers in the non-special ed decrease of $107,000 is we're looking at salaries and benefits. Where's my little pointer? There we go. It doesn't show up. The salaries and benefits decreasing by almost $74,000 or 2.49%. A lot of this is attributable to attrition. We have a retiring teacher. That position will not be filled. In light of enrollment decreases, the board and the principal has worked out a way to still provide the quality education without having to fill that one teacher position. The contracted purchases and tuition services also declining by close to $12,000 or 1.17%. A good chunk of this is a reduction in the supervisory union non-special ed assessment of almost $19,000. But we're also seeing some decreases in repairs and maintenance and instructional technology and some facilities, with a few increases in some other contracted small flip-flops. Net supplies, we're seeing almost flat at a $335 increase or 0.16. We're seeing some fuel increases and some software investments. However, we're seeing some decreases in instructional supplies. And I think lower you'll see where the decreases in instructional technology and instructional supplies are being reinvested in equipment, where they're now. Kitchen equipment for the current year was budgeted for an $18,000 purchase. That's a one-time only. So there's instructional technology and some facilities investments in equipment that they're utilizing this budget, but a general 2.52% decrease in equipment overall. And the net miscellaneous decrease of $20,399 is primarily due to the healthcare savings recapture. Some people will remember, most probably won't. At the end of fiscal year 18 and the beginning of fiscal 19, because of the mandatory changes in health care plans being brought up to the Affordable Care Act standard, the state said, we know you're going to save money, so we are going to take that from you. You have your budgets for 18, but we think you're going to save $37,000 this year. We're just not going to give that to you in your state funds. In 19, we expect you to save $20,000. We're just not going to give that to you in your state funds, so expect not to get it. In 20, that's not happening again. It was a one-year savings over the plan year, which split half in 18 fiscal year, half in this current fiscal year. Not going to happen again. Plus, the short-term and long-term interest expense is expected to decline. As the principal pays down on the bond, the interest goes down. The short-term borrowing, we don't think we're going to have to lean so heavily on the tax anticipation note. I don't think we've had to this year either. So we expect it to go down. And then there's some miscellaneous expenses, some dues and fees that are going up. A lot of the dues and fees are the board memberships at the Vermont School Boards Association. Because of merged districts, they have fewer boards to collect from. So they're increasing.
They change their structure.
Change their structure and increasing fees. Our revenues, non-special ed revenues are going down by about 26.5 thousand or 8.95%. Special education revenues are going up, as you would expect with the special education expenses going up, by about 43,000 or 22.45%. Total revenues up 16,747 or 3.24%. Reserve funds, however, we're going to utilize, this budget utilizes about 41,000 less than were utilized in the 19 fiscal year. Net that against total expenses for an education spending change of 68,856 or an increase of 1.43%. The state was originally expecting a 3.24% increase across the state for ed spending. Cambridge has held it way below that. Transportation, while centralized at the supervisory union level, we've always presented it with Cambridge. Cambridge still manages their transportation services. Lisa does a fabulous job. We can see salaries and benefits in, and I had some information before. Salaries and benefits for transportation is increasing about 7.5%. Fuel is going up at about 5%. Equipment and supplies, 1.5%. And other miscellaneous at about 3.6%. But we're talking, it's a small dollar value. Total change in overall budget. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a typo there. FY20 budget, 415,000. FY19 budget, 393,000. Change of 22,000. We deduct from that the estimated state aid of 171,985. We come to a net change to the local budget of 243,302. Compared to last year's net cost of 227,790, or the current year's budgeted cost of 227,790, a change of about 6.81% increase in transportation. So we're looking at the 5.5 million in revenues for Cambridge budget for FY20. About 88.2% of that is coming from the education fund. Last year, about 87.6% came from the education fund. Interest and miscellaneous is such a small amount compared to the whole budget, it's staying level at 1.2%. The prior year fund balance is now 2.7% of estimated revenues against budget, whereas last year it was 3.5% of total revenues. Federal revenues are decreasing. They're at 3.6%, whereas last year it was 4.2%. And state and special ed, we've already said, is increasing up to 4.3% from 3.5% last year. Sorry, it's awkward. The total FY20 expenses of $5,538,000, $5,539,000. The largest swing, I would say, we're seeing is in, actually these are all pretty close. Our debt service going down from 7.11% to 6.95%. And food services going down to 0.73%, whereas last year it was 1.34%. The rest of the changes are within fractions of what they are this year.
Why is the food service going down?
I would say efficiencies in running the program. And that's from the FY19 budget. And we had equipment, we did the one-time equipment purchase, which could have impacted it. Budget growth since 2013 has been 9.78%, or about $493,000 over the 7-year period. which is an average growth of 1.4% per year. Factors in building the FY20 budget. This is a tricky one this year. So the property yield up until Friday was 10,666. On Friday, I got notice from the AOE that the legislature is now saying the yield is going to be reduced to 10,565. This puts upward pressure on the estimated tax rates. Again, also the state income yield has gone from 13,104. On Friday, we got the same notice. It's going down to 13,046, which is going to put upward pressure on the tax rate after income sensitivity is applied. The state announced income sensitivity at 2% is a fixed amount. The state has said that 5 years ago, they fixed it at 2%. And in FY17, 75% of Cambridge homestead home sites benefited from some sort of income sensitivity tax credit. The non-residential property tax rate up until Friday was staying level with current fiscal year at 158. It's now been reduced, increased to 1.594. Which again is pressure upwards on the tax rate. Excess spending threshold at 18,311. Current year 17,816. No districts in the SU are subject to threshold penalties. None are anticipated to be subject to threshold penalties. I think our districts have done a good job of making sure we stay within what the state said is the max spending. At June 30th of fiscal 18, there was $203,380 of unassigned fund balance available to apply to the FY20 budget. The budget, as it's being shown today, has 150 of that applied. The other 53,380 is being is asked to be sent to the capital reserves. Right now, the capital reserves are at 246,000 roughly. Once the 53 moves over, we'll be closer to 299. And these are, capital reserves help level out expenditures of sudden needs. Roofs, bursting pipes that aren't covered by insurance.
Yeah, what is the optimal amount that should be in that capital reserve fund?
You have about 5 years rolling to spend it. So let's just say it all started July 1 of 2019. You'd have 5 years to make sure that $300,000 is spent on capital needs. All of our buildings are old. Cambridge is not unique in that. There's plenty of work that can be done, and there's plenty of times that these capital funds are tapped into for special projects. The capital reserves are, you don't want them getting too high. I think 300 is a good number. I think you don't want to start packing too much more away unless you're utilizing it.
That's why we put 150 into the budget, thinking
Yep.
there's no reason to put it all into capital.
Right.
It didn't need to all be in there, so we took flat 150,000 and put it into the budget so that the costs and stuff would be contained.
Yeah, I
Help
think
control the increase.
over the last few years, we've probably averaged, some years have been more, some a little less, but as far as projects around the school goes, I think we kind of averaged around what we put in each year to try to make sure we're taking out at least what we're putting in, just to make sure that, kind of keep it seated.
What happens if you don't spend it?
That's,
Well, a bus is $100,000. It's capital, and a bus purchase is a capital purchase. So if in 3 years we feel like we're bumping up against losing it, and it's only lost in that it has to go back to the taxpayers whether you want it to or not.
Right.
It's not lost.
Yeah.
You're not
right,
forfeiting
it just
it.
goes.
It just has to be applied to the budget rather than optional.
Yeah.
You buy a bus instead of taking out loan for a bus.
Go ahead.
What kind of hit did we take non-insured on the gymnasium?
I don't have those final figures yet, but
Not
it's
much. I don't think
30, less than 30, but we don't have all the claims processed yet.
it was-
So it's not much. Our deductible is minimal.
Yeah.
Less than what
Relatively.
we would have paid to replace the gym floor,
Right.
Right.
which needed to be replaced anyway. Perfect.
So some additional considerations regarding the upcoming estimated FY20 tax rates. So as we've already seen, there's 4 key elements that are provided by, there's several elements, but 4 key elements to estimating the tax rates that's provided by the state. They're all preliminary at this point. The equalized pupil number was frozen as of February 15th, and I have not heard anything yet as of this date of that changing. If it did change, I would think it would go up just a fraction, which would only help with the tax rates. However, the yields, we've already seen the yield has now been adjusted once on Friday. The non-residential rate has been adjusted once on Friday. And the common level of appraisal, and I believe Cambridge went through a reappraisal recently. Was it 2 years ago?
That was only for condos and timeshares, it wasn't a full.
Wasn't for the whole? Okay. Because the CLA for Cambridge has been relatively steady, a little over 100%, a little under 100%. If between now and tax rates are published, there's a reappraisal, the common level of appraisal would change. The tax department would apply whatever they have as soon as they can, which could push tax rates up or down depending on which direction the common level of appraisal goes. I would think it would bring it closer to 100, which right now would be
Sounds
beneficial to the
yeah.
tax rate because a
Right.
rising CLA lowers tax rates. So the state was originally saying a 3.24% was originally forecast. Early reports and our preliminary budgets were all due to the state by February 15th. Since then, they're looking at a 3.9% growth in ed spending, and that's directly what has impacted the drop in the yield and the non-residential rate. So a quick comparison of the FY19 estimated tax rate or current tax rate and the FY20 estimated tax rates. There's about an 18 equalized pupil change decrease at the elementary level from last year, and about a little over a 3 equalized pupils at the secondary level decrease. We take our ed spending after we take our expenditures and subtract our offsetting revenues. We come to our ed spending of $4,883,157. We divide that by the 311.6 equalized pupils at the elementary level. Comes to an ed spending of $15,671 at the elementary level. Divided by the new yield of $10,565. We get an estimated rate before CLAs of 1.4833 at the elementary level. 56.6% of Cambridge's students are at the elementary level. So we prorate the 1.4833 by the 56.56%, come up with a base rate of 0.8390 for elementary school. Then we go over to the secondary column and we take all of the secondary budget, all of the secondary students. We come to an estimated rate of 1.5484 at the secondary level. 43.44% of Cambridge's students are at the secondary level. Comes to a prorated 0.6726. We get a blended, equalized, prorated, before CLA, estimated homestead tax rate of 1.5116. This is 3.17 cents higher than last year. Or if we stopped there and didn't apply CLA, your tax bills would be 31.7 cents higher per 100,000 than they were last year, per 100,000. The CLA has gone down a little, which puts a little more upward pressure. Once CLA is applied, the change in the tax rates looks more like $51.50 per 100,000 of assessed property value. Any questions at this point with the calculation?
I follow the math, I don't know that I follow the logic, but I do follow the math.
The calculation right now is defined in statute. This is
Say that's why it doesn't make
That's
sense.
what-
right. It doesn't always make sense. Comparative tax rates 2012 to 2020, this is just sort of another way of looking at it. You've got a little more CLA history. You can see Cambridge has been pretty steady. There's a couple of high blips or low blips there, but it's been pretty steady. The school, you know, this is my third budget cycle, but I think I'm speaking historically too. The school, the principal and the board has always been very sensitive to and reactive to enrollment. And as enrollment has declined, the board and the principal have done a phenomenal job of holding those spending per pupil down and trying to hold the expenses down so that they can do that. Economic pressures and everything else force increases, but this board and this principal have done a good job of doing everything they can to control it before the state gets in there and impacts yields and everything else. If Cambridge had merged, I debated whether I should leave this slide in there. It's been in there, so I left it. There would have been about a $4 difference to the 5150, would have been roughly 5550 per 100,000. Tax rate, if Cambridge had merged, would not have been a big part of the issues of merging for the town of Cambridge. We can see there's been a decline. There was a little bit of a blip in fall of 2017, but we can see since 13 there's been a decline in enrollment. Projected for fall of 2019, which is the fiscal year 20 enrollment, we're looking at an increase of about 3. And these numbers include the private pre-K. So pre-K, the 3 and 4-year-olds can either attend pre-K classes that happen on site or can attend partner organizations, partner pre-Ks outside. And for fiscal 2020, there's a $33.50 charge that flows from the state through the school to the outside pre-K organizations. Just another graph kind of showing the line of the drop. Hopefully we're leveling off and maybe we'll start to see an increase. The big question are those pre-K students and birth rates. Start to see some young families moving in and settling down. Does anyone have questions about the budget or anything at this point? I'm moving on to the SBAC scores and then.
Anybody.
Okay, anybody, the two, well, anybody. I mean, the board can ask. Cambridge continues to perform well on the SBAC scores in English and math, both at the SU level and at the state of Vermont. And then the second page of the SBAC is just showing how the grades are performing. And there's no kneecap, thank you. I was going to say
Science.
NEASC, but it's not
Science.
NEASC. There's no
We still have
kneecap
the state-
any longer.
We still have the science part of it.
Kneecap.
Nope.
No,
But now
no.
it's going to be science SBAC instead.
Right.
But
But it
the
hasn't-
data is too new to,
Right, but it was last year, which is, this is last year's SBACs.
This fall's SBACs,
Okay.
right? 2018 SBACs are this fall?
I
we're
didn't
doing
know
it in the
we.
spring.
Spring, okay.
That's why I'm saying there are
Spring.
kneecap for science for
This
4th
spring?
and 8th grade for last spring.
But the
I
data,
don't know, I don't know about that. I don't know if they did it last spring or not.
Oh, we did.
the data may be too new to
Yeah,
have it be meaningful.
again, I don't think they track that.
Yeah, it's not in the town report either.
No.
Yeah, so I don't know if Mary would have put it in, I think it was there.
Which one's which? The color looks the
I
same.
know, in the black and white here, we'll go back if you wanna. So the
okay.
first one is the ELA,
Okay.
and the second column is the math. And the same with the second page. The first column is ELA, second column is math, but the colors are flip-flopped.
I didn't look at the screen, I was looking at this, sorry
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, I
Please look
debated,
at-
but I didn't know how many people would
No.
be here and,
Yeah.
you know, to make a dozen copies in color, that's a
Right.
little costly. Please vote March 5th. Yeah,
Thank you. Any questions?
and thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Deb. That was very-
Questions?
No.
No. Okay. If you have any questions tomorrow, I will be in my office. If you have any questions tomorrow, I will be in my office.
Obviously, during town meeting, we can discuss this
Yeah.
during our session.
And your number
Um,
there is,
What is my number? 851-1161. And let me give you my cell phone. So it's 802, because I think I'm long distance. 673.
You are on tape, you know that, right?
6259.
There's two people watching.
I just didn't know if she wanted to give it out.
6259.
No, that's fine, it's work, it's a work cell phone.
6259?
Correct.
673.
6259. Did anyone online have questions?
We didn't have questions open for this one. so,
Okay. All right.
So
no.
they'll have to come
Well, now they
tomorrow.
know how to call me if
Right.
they need me.
Yeah.
At the supervisory union, my number's online at the SU website. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Deb.
Yes, thank you.
Guess if that's no questions, we'll conclude the meeting
Okay,
and we'll adjourn.
very good.
Great, thank you.